When working your abs, the six-pack muscles get all the attention. But if you really want to increase your core strength, there's another more important piece you may be missing. Hi, I'm Kate. This missing piece is also critical for improving your balance and stability, increasing your athletic ability, and making it easier to flow in yoga. If you think the missing piece is your obliques, you're so close. It's actually one of their prime movements, which is rotation. But before we get there, let's explore why people focus on the six-pack, also called the rectus abdominis. It turns out there are a couple of reasons. First is simply a lack of awareness. Many of us think of the six-pack as our abs, and many of the traditional exercises to target the abs, like crunches and sit-ups, only reinforce this idea. The biggest reason, though, and why the rectus abdominis gets all the love, is because they look good. So when you spend time working them, they stand out. But they can also be what we call all show and no go. In other words, you can have a well-defined six-pack, but if you aren't working the other abdominal muscles, you may lack the strength to hold something simple, like a plank with good form. And if you can't hold plank, then chaturanga is out of the question. At the other end of the spectrum are the neglected ab muscles, the obliques. But if you want to move better and get stronger, not only for yoga, but your daily life, then you have to show the obliques some love. And the oblique movement you want to highlight is rotation, which we do all the time in yoga, in the form of twists. But as always, it's not only what you do in yoga, but how you do it. So today, I'm going to give you a step-by-step plan to fill in the missing rotational piece. To see how important the obliques are, think of your body like a flexible tube that can move in all directions. It can go forward and backwards, sideways, and even rotationally. And here's where the obliques shine, because they are responsible both for rotation and side bending. So if you're not incorporating these movements into your ab routine, you're missing out. For this plan, it's helpful to have a set of 2 yoga blocks. If you don't have those, a couple of small firm pillows will also work. To begin to find your obliques, you're going to start with a seated twist. Place your right hand behind you and your left hand on your right thigh. Focus on the area to the side of your abdominals, the obliques. This is where you want to feel the sensation. Now use your hands to help you move your torso. When you come to a stopping place, try not to move your upper body at all and lift your hands to your heart. You should be able to feel the obliques really kick in here as they work to keep you in place. Try to hold this for 5 breaths, which is about 45 seconds. Then release that. Come back to the center and repeat on the second side. Next, we're going to highlight the obliques' ability to move your lower body, that is your legs and pelvis, toward the opposite shoulder. This is a glute lean movement, so you can always provide a cushion by sitting on a towel. Lean on the glute of the same side you are doing. So when you go to the right, you're on the right glute. Your hands are behind you and slightly wider than your shoulders for support. Start with your knees bent and feet on the ground. Then on an exhale, bring your knees towards your right shoulder. On an inhale, come back to the center and then repeat. When doing these, you want to think about moving in a smooth and controlled way. That means you don't have to be fast. It's better to do fewer well than more poorly. Do as many as you can to start, but see if you can work up to 10 on each side. Again, choose quality over quantity. Our third pose is a rotational lift, which is a variation of sideline thoracic rotation. That's a mouthful. Lie down with your legs long out in front of you. Squeeze a block or pillow between your thighs and hold the other block between your hands. Extend your arms with the block over your head, then roll your entire body to the right. This is your starting position. Now, activate your legs and try to keep your hips facing the right. Rotate your torso onto your back, bringing both shoulders back down to the ground. Then, lift your shoulders straight up. Come down, rotate your torso to the right, and start again. If you need to let your hips travel back to the center a little bit to get your shoulders all the way down, that's not a problem. Breath makes a huge difference. We breathe out to come up, and at the same time, we want to press the abdominals in towards the spine, rather than letting them go out. Do 10 of these on each side. Now a classic, knees to elbows. Starting on your hands and knees, extend your right leg back behind you on an inhale. On an exhale, bring your right knee to your left arm underneath you. Try to get your knee as high as possible on your arm. But it's okay if your knee doesn't come close to your arm. You're still doing it if you're feeling it in your sides. This is about range of motion. You can think of range of motion as how far your body can travel for a particular movement. If you have a wider range of motion, you're able to move your body more. We can increase our range of motion by building strength and flexibility, but be sure to move with control instead of just flinging your body about. Do one side at a time with a goal of 10 on each side. Side plank dips are a great way to build strength in the side bending aspect of your obliques. From your hands and your knees, take your hips to the right to touch the ground. Next, lower your right forearm to the ground. Then place your right hand facing your left hand. Bring your knees in line with your hips and shoulders, with your feet behind you. Your left hand goes on your top hip. Starting with your right hip on the ground, with your exhale, lift your hips off the ground. Then press your left hip into your left hand to feel it lift even higher. So it feels like lift, lift, with the first lift getting you to neutral and the second lift taking you higher. Again, your goal is 10 on each side. Now we reverse the process of side bending with a side bend lift. The difference in setup from your previous posture is your lower arm is extended out in front of you. You can rest your head on the ground or a towel. Your knees are still bent, but now they're out in front of you, and your left hand is behind your head. On your exhale, bring your left elbow towards your left hip. Your inhale lowers you down. Go for slow, controlled movements. Control is about where you get your movement from. In this case, you want your movement to come from the obliques. Keep the goal of 10 for each side. Now we come to stand for UTKATASANA twists. With your feet hip width apart, bend your knees for an UTKATASANA variation. Your hands are at your heart center. On your exhale, try to get your left elbow to your right knee, or as close as possible. The hard part of this posture is moving the arms only when the torso moves, and not by themselves. We don't want to send a flying elbow. For this movement, you're doing rounds, which means you come to the middle after each side, pause, then go to the opposite side, and then back to the middle to complete the round. Do 10 rounds. Our final posture is a dynamic open arm twist, which is a great way to highlight rotation, balance, and control. Start in a high lunge pose with your left leg back and your arms lifted high. On an exhale, bring your hands to your heart, rotate your torso to the right, then extend your arms wide with your right arm back behind you and your left arm out in front of you. Inhale, come back to the center and lift your arms, and then exhale, repeat. Your focus is on the rotational movement in your core, and your breath is slow and steady. After you do 10, swap sides and do 10 more on the second side. Now that you've found the missing piece rotation, you can take it back into your other twisting postures. When you do, be sure the movement is coming from your obliques and that you can feel it on both sides at the same time. However, focusing only on one body part like your abs can lead to imbalances in your body. But it's not the only trap people fall into. Watch this video next for the biggest mistake online yoga classes make.